right, I will call the meeting to order for the Yale Medicine East School Board for February 12th, 2024. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we will then start with a roll call of board members, starting with Director Christensen.
Laurel Christensen.
Matt Semple.
Dawn Odegaard.
Jeremy LeBlanc.
Amanda Lacey.
Sonia Peterson.
Ron Winter.
Thank you. Tonight's agenda is before us. There is one item that we will be removing tonight under new business, 9.3, approval of a change in the financial accounting system for next year. So that one we're just removing from the agenda tonight. All right. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda then?
Motion by Semple.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. May I have a volunteer to read the mission statement?
I can do it.
Thank you.
Our mission is to provide a caring environment of high expectations that prepares every student for a successful future and instills the value of learning.
Thank you. And then our public address to the board. Is there anyone here wishing to speak that is not on the agenda? Okay. Consent agenda will consist of the meeting minutes from January 16th to 24, payment for claims, the finance report, and the enrollment report. Those items are on board book. Is there a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
There's a second.
Second by LeBlanc.
There's a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. That moves us to reports, and we'll start with Mrs. Hins.
Oh, I was going to show my video. I suppose I don't need to connect to that.
You can if you'd like.
Yeah.
We'll get this done. You can probably start talking while this is firing up.
Do I need to do that?
That's on.
Sure, then it will go through that.
It's on.
Okay. All right. Well, it's February. A little crazy, but you have the newsletter in front of you in bright colors. And we are right in the middle of registration, which is going to be, has been an interesting process for me. We went through this student registration guide, the sheets that the kids use to register for classes, cleaned all of that up. I think it took us probably 2 weeks here and there between other interruptions to kind of get that all together. So we are registering last week and this week and then next week. So the kids took the pre-ACT on February 7th. That might be something that we consider kids signing up to take that in the future instead of requiring them to take that. I think it's a good practice for the ACT and other tests, but it wasn't taken as seriously as it probably should have been. So that might be something that we're going to consider doing. Obviously, we had Snowball with no snow, all those fun dates, and then the backside is just some robotic reminders. Tomorrow is the 100th day of school, which is more like an elementary celebration, but I pitched this super cool, that I thought, idea to Crystal, and she did one of these. And I was like, you don't like my idea at all. She's like, no, not really. So she came up with this whole cool, we'll have, it's going to sound silly, but the kids will love it. We have about 200 tiny little bees all over the high school. So then we have some royal bees that are worth more points. So the advisory team, or that advisory that has the most bees by the end of the day will get a pizza party. So, and they were all looking for them already tonight. So it was interesting what I saw on some cameras. But so that was exciting. Food service pictures, and then we talked about this a little bit last time, just to remind you that we're taking the NAEP on February 20th. 8th graders, they were either picked to take reading or math, and that's been quite a process for both Lisa and I. And we did include a picture of the winning chili team, just to rub that in just one more time for the end of the year. And e-learning and then studying, so all those updates for you. We are excited. The math team has worked really hard this year on every staff development day, their PLC times, to review curriculum. We've worked with Brandon Ramo as well. And they have settled on a curriculum, and it's actually the same curriculum that the elementary is using. So that's Savas and Vision. That's what we came to that meets our standards and what we want in a math curriculum. So that's going to be on the capital request. So English renewal curriculum, we are at our end of our 3-year, what's it called, lease? What would that be called?
Yeah, probably.
Purchasing cycle. So another big ticket item that you'll be seeing on the capital requests. Art, that's what I want to show you this, because maybe you've already seen it. Probably not, because Rich told me that almost all of my links today were not really links. So thank goodness he looked at them first. We had, trying to figure out a way, my computer won't turn on, weird. We're trying to figure out a way to, maybe you could cast yours, Rich? Oh, it's doing something odd. We want to find a way to address to the kids of, like, these are the courses that you can take in math and social studies and English. Mine's up now, sorry. And we thought of a fair, like coming in, talking to all the teachers. We just basically ran out of time. So I did ask some of the elective teachers to make videos of the courses that they offer so that the kids know what does 3D print mean or things like that. So Tammy Eisfeld made a really nice video, but maybe we won't be able to watch it tonight. Oh,
I might have it ready here
Really?
for us, so I
'Kay.
might hop in here, but you keep working on it.
okay. Oh, you want me to try it?
Yes.
Okay, I'm
I
sorry.
will do my best. See?
Perfect. Thank you. We're getting there. So she had the most creative one, so I thought I'd share that. The registration handbook, you have that linked on your computer and on this report. So on page 13, I'm just going to highlight a few of our newer courses. Tammy Eisfeld renamed all of hers and blended some together and separated some out. So you'll see on page 13 and 14, those are all the different art classes that she wants to offer. So obviously all of these don't run because we have to have a certain amount of kids that are in those. Page 17, there is a academic or creative writing class that we have, and then we also have academic writing that they can choose from. But we asked the kids in the English classes, what would you like to take? What do you want to do? And the poll came back and creative writing was on top. So that's something that they're very interested in. So we'll see if that goes. And the English team is probably gonna fight to teach that, because if you're an English teacher, you love teaching writing, so, anyways. 18, we have a math class. They've asked if they could try and run, probability, stats, and trigonometry, for juniors and seniors. So we are going to try and run that one again. It would be a great class for kids to take. And then on page 19, we're gonna offer a 3D print and design 1 and 2. And obviously use all of our 3D printers that we have in the district, so kids have been liking that class. And the big news, page 30, I think it's on the very back, is driver's training. So Leah and I met with Rich and Tim to talk about the possibility of running 2 semesters of driver's ed next year. So we will be able to do that. The kids will be enrolled based on their birthday, so the older students will be going first and the younger ones will be going second. We do have a few that already took it, or they're going to be taking it in June, those first weeks of June, because they're a little bit older, so we're gonna take them off. But it will be paired with Phi-Ed. So we were talking about, in order to take the driver's ed class, you have to have 30 hours, and so after we took a look at the math, it's about 34 hours, I think we figured out. So they would take Phi-Ed on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then driver's ed Tuesday, Thursday, since they're all 9th graders. So they're pretty excited about it. We met with the sophomores and juniors, and they were grumbling about why did they have to come in the summer? And I'm like, well, I don't know what to tell you, but kids are pretty excited about that. I talked with DMV down here about the person coming in. I think Sonia and I had talked the other day. She asked a question about, you know, how will that test be taken? And they're like, we would love to come and knock out 30 kids versus 30 separate appointments. So they'll be coming to our school to actually have the kids take the test.
good.
So that'll be good.
That's what they did last
Awesome.
year. And so it was really nice that we didn't, right after they got done with the June class, they came right to the school, and we didn't have to worry about it as parents trying to set up a time for a permit test. So that's why I was talking to Stacy about it, and she said, that's a good idea, let me check into that. So thank you for doing that, that'll be very nice.
They were very happy too. They're
Really,
like,
well, I'm
"Wow,
sure it's a
we'll
lot
come
easier
too."
for them as well. Good.
Yeah, so.
So our prices, just to clarify a couple things for driver's ed this summer, because we'll still run driver's ed this summer, will remain the same. Then in July, we will take a look at the new rates for the following summer with the intent that the driving cost is gonna have to go up. Right, because if we just charged that amount, we were losing money on, and I'm not saying we have to make money on it, but we can't lose that much, and that's what most schools are doing. Take a look at that in July.
And then I think it was Friday, we were, Lacaparo Valley, their principal, Scott Swasky, reached out and asked YME if we were interested in renting their meat trailer. They have a brand-new meat trailer for learning how to be a butcher. Is that the right terminology?
Yep.
High demand job right now because no one's going into that field. And I reached out to Rich Saturday and said, can we please do this? So we are going after that, and we're on the list to get the meat trailer here. I talked to Scott again today, and we can only have it for a quarter, but he said what they would do is, like, we'd get it quarter 2, but we'd spend quarter 1 in all of the learning and the application, and then the learning pieces of it, and then we would apply it in quarter 2. So I told the students about that today, and they were kind of dumbfounded. They were like, what do we do, cut up animals? I'm like, that sounds like what that is to me. So pretty excited. We had some interest, so. look
Yeah,
forward.
so there's different rules with this meat trailer because of the way it's done. So if it's their own meat, we're given some latitude with some of those rules that would normally have to be. And the biggest rule is USDA inspection. We'll be able to avoid it because we're not intending to sell. And it's for the students themselves. So, no money will exchange hands.
So that was kind of exciting. I never thought we'd add meat science to this. It's not in here, obviously, because this just happened over the weekend, so. Questions on the registration or anything like that?
Obviously, we have a non-ag teacher that's a resident expert, Andy Holmes.
definitely.
Sure, he's excited to hear about it.
Is that handout, the registration booklet, is that with, did that get sent home with every child? Or ninth
It's
through-
online,
It is online,
Mhm.
okay.
yeah.
It's on the website, okay.
I
good.
would love to put a little ticker on there and see how many times they actually look at it to see what the course is. Usually they go by word of mouth with their friends or
Right.
the office.
When is their registration due in?
We have registered everyone except for the 10th and 11th graders. We're going to do
Okay.
that next Tuesday. They brought their forms home today, so, yeah. The other ones are a little bit easier because there's not as many choices, so. Credit recovery and graduation credits. This has taken me quite a long time to wrap my head around and get it, but I wanted to share some basic information because we have new board members and, it's very complicated and it gets very messy sometimes. But if a student fails a class at YME, they go into what we call credit recovery. And credit recovery can be done by repeating the class. That doesn't always work out the best. Or we work with the MERVED and they do those packets. You probably have heard that before. Not a great fan of those. I'm not sure how much I should say about that, but we wanted to look for some other options for credit recovery. And I think what's one important thing for you to know as board members is that when we walked in the door in September, we had 25% of our students as seniors in credit recovery. And then I was like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? Like, I didn't realize it was that huge because as a sixth grade teacher, it wasn't on my radar. So Leah Schuler and Christy and a whole bunch of other people and Berta, have been working and managing this messy, complicated system. So we have that side of it, and then we also have I'm gonna stop there. In credit recovery, we also were approached by Acellus. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of that before. It's an online credit recovery program. And we have it for free for this year and next year. And so we got like I think it was a $10,000 scholarship. A little bit of those bait with this and make you pay for it later, but we want to try something different. We spent majority of last week meeting and working together and taking a look at the criteria of all of these students that need credit recovery 9 through 12, prioritizing the ones that need it the most, the older kids typically, and then some of these kids have their packets already started, so it was just trying to get it all together in one neat package, and I'm like, well, it's February, we should have had this done a long time ago, but feeling a lot better about that. I felt really uneasy about that whole entire process, and explaining it to parents and kids, I felt like what I was saying wasn't really making much sense. So we are working on that. And then the other side of that, just so you know, I mean, many of you have gone through this as parents. In any class period, if you have 10 or more unexcused absences, right, that will cause you to receive no credit for that class until you make up the seat time, right? So we have students that have a lot of seat time to make up to graduate this spring. And in my mind, it didn't make sense for me to, can I use you as an example, Rich? I come up to Rich as a dad of a gonna be graduating high school senior, and I say, so your student passed this class, and they got like a C-, but they didn't put enough seat time in to, not get the no credit, that they had 10 or more absences for your class. And I don't know what Rich would say, but me as a parent was kind of like, well, if they missed your class 10 times and they still got a C-, something's not quite right here. They shouldn't be able to miss that much class. So I wanted you to know that also, that we're really tightening that up and making that more of a priority. I didn't realize that happened either, but it has been, so we're changing that. The kids, they're terrified of seat time. So this Friday, if you're not, well, you guys are gonna be really busy this weekend, but we are offering all of those students to come in and sit for 8 hours on Friday. Some of them will come in because they have to make up seat time, and then they also have to make up credit recovery. Some of them are just doing seat time, so you can see it turns into this big thing in order to get them to graduate. However, we are on track for all of our students to graduate right now. They've done a really fantastic job in their credit recovery if they needed any. So, you know, we started the year with 25% in credit recovery, and I thought, well, this is not gonna work, and now we are at 0%. So that was a huge, for the kids, for all of the people that sat and helped them, that was a huge gain for us. So if you ever wanna talk about that or have ideas, I am open to them, but
So question, so they come in and sit for their seat time, what do they do?
homework that they're currently working on.
Okay,
You know, it's not like they're gonna make up
yeah,
what they did. So, I think for me, the sticky part is Rich fails the class, right? His consequence is that he has to do credit recovery. But we can't double ding them for no credit, or credit recovery and seat time. So that's his, his consequence, versus Jeremy skips 22 first hour class periods. You have a grade, but you have all of these hours to make up. So the kids are like, so you can fail and not have seat time, but, so that part gets tricky. It's taken a long time for us to,
it's interesting.
yeah.
So can they
Yeah.
do something else if they, like, if they don't have any homework to do? If it's just the seat time? Like, can they read a book, or
Sure,
do you let them play
absolutely.
on their phones, or is this
No
more?
phones,
No phones.
no phones.
So it has to be constructive or
Yeah.
educational.
Yep.
And that's just absences, missing the whole like hour, how many minutes, not tardies at all? Like,
3 tardies count into 1 absence,
Okay.
which is also another huge, other
wow.
piece to it.
Yes, okay.
And I asked at the Merved group, the principals, like, we have a little blog, like a blog, we go back and forth and shoot out questions, and some of the responses were like, yeah, it's been a hard year, I have 2 kids in credit recovery. And I'm like, okay, 2? I'd be like, yeah, we're gonna be fine. But, so anyways,
Are you sending, like, are the parents aware of that then? Like, there's an email sent if your child, if this is happening to your child, a parent is notified, correct?
yep.
Okay, just making
All-
sure.
All the time, every which way, short of like a telegram. I mean, we're just, I'm sure we're annoying them, but
Can
anyway.
I ask one more question?
What- Yeah,
So if they had like 22 class periods that they missed, and they sat for 8 hours this Friday, is that equivalent to 8 hours?
good question. So how it's been done in the past is what we went with for now, because I wasn't willing to, mess everything up. But, so we take, say you had 20 absences, the 10 that you get, we would take that away. So then you're down to 10, then we divide that by 2. So they owe 5 hours. Otherwise, they'd be here.
So potentially, someone sat Friday, they would make it all up and be back on track to
Yep.
graduate.
Assuming, all of that is assuming everything they do from now until May is fine. Like,
Right.
please don't drop the ball and, as a senior, and,
Right.
because then there is no, there's no catch-up at that point. You're just not gonna make it, which I would hate to see, so. Yeah, it's confusing. Yeah, so. Anything else? Any other questions about that?
Thank you for explaining it. Seems very complicated.
I think Leah had to explain it to me like 20 times. I'm like, what? Okay, all right. This is something that's, I'm not sure, yeah, I put this on here. Crystal did her magic in JMC and took a look at all of the students that had no missing assignments for quarter 2, no unexcused absences, and then I put impressive grades because I didn't say you don't have any Fs because that looked really negative. So we're gonna have an achievement and attendance brunch. So there's 99 kids in 6 through 12 that qualified. So they have an invitation. They can bring 2 adult guests with you. If their parents can't come, they might grab a neighbor or a friend. So that's gonna be on Friday, March 1st at 10 a.m. in the Aux Gym. So you're very welcome to come to that. And you wanna bring 2 guests, you can bring 2 guests as well, so. I'm excited about this. I feel like you get in this, fixing all the time, and then I'm like, no, we also gotta have kids feel good about being here, so. Anything else you would like to talk about?
Thank you for all you're doing.
Oh, yeah, it's fun.
Thank you.
And thanks for finding room for the driver's ed class, so.
Yeah, well, that was good, yeah.
Have you heard any comments on that at all from parents?
Very excited, yeah. Well, they're like, yes, I don't have to pay for it, and number
Right.
two,
Right.
we don't lose
Yes.
2 weeks in the summer. I know
Right.
Tim Knapper probably will be happy because his kids can start working right away, and
Oh, sure. Yep.
so.
I
And
think it will go well.
I personally think it'll be better because teaching driver's ed in 2 weeks for, 4 or 5 hours a day
Yeah,
sounds
that's a lot.
awful to me, but,
It was a lot.
all right.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Hello, good evening, Lisa.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. Okay, so my doc's ready here. So before I start on my official agenda, I do want to mention, I know coming up this evening, you will be approving the resignation retirement of Mariella Klaus from Burt Rainey, and I just want to extend a big thank you to her. Mrs. Klaus has served as a classroom teacher and for quite a few years in Title, and has really helped support a lot of our dyslexia changes, a number of data pieces, and so she will definitely be missed, and we wish her all the very best. Moving into the READ Act, I really wanted to just touch base and circle back on some things. A lot has happened since January 1st. The big thing that Minnesota schools were waiting for was January 1. January 1 was going to be the release of the 5 curriculums that the state would help pay for if schools adopted them. So I, like many other people, I had reached out to one of my contacts and said, okay, do I need to stay up until the ball drops on New Year's Eve to get this list, thinking MDE was going to display it at, 12:01. She said, no, it'll never be there. So she was correct. It was not published on the 1st. And so then on the 2nd, we thought, well, it's got to be today. And then they changed the date to the 2nd. Nothing. Again, refresh throughout the state. And then finally, later on the 2nd, they changed the website to say this has been delayed until January 10th. So we waited about another 8 days. Again, right away, I'm like, it's got to be in the morning. Nope. Late afternoon, it was released. Very late afternoon. And I would say I have yet to talk to anyone in the state that was not very disappointed in the list that was published. I believe many of us were expecting more of a comprehensive programs that were going to be released, something that you would see that elementary schools would purchase to teach reading in their entire buildings. And instead, what we received was one comprehensive program that most people had never heard of. We received 2 foundational programs that really focus on phonics, and they were only for K2. And then we had a 3rd foundational program, again a phonics program, and then the 5th one was knowledge building. It was called Wit and Wisdom, which was definitely not widely known, but again was not a comprehensive program. So that left many people in the state saying, what now? We were really hyped up about it. My ELA committee we're on like 18 months. Last year we delayed a recommendation for purchase because we were anticipating bigger and better things. In the meantime, MDE has published that there is so much money to go around throughout the state to help pay for some of the expenses related to those 5. Some of the expenses of the screeners that we are now mandated to purchase and have ready to go by fall. The problem is the money is never going to pay for what schools in the state need. They're now backdating, so let's say that a district may have purchased one of those 5 programs 2 years ago. They are backdating schools that can actually submit for partial reimbursement all the way back to 2021, and that fund will go till 2028. There is not even close to enough money to go around. At this time, I don't think Mr. Schneider, and I know myself, we have not received any direction on how that formula will be. I checked the website again today, and I think, what does it say, Mr. Schneider, information will be coming, or,
Yeah, reimbursement process will be coming
yep.
soon.
I think it's a huge process for MDE, and so, in the meantime, most districts, I only know of one, that has purchased any of those 5, and then they still had to supplant it with more of what we call a comprehensive program. And so ELA committees all over the state are just moving forward with our recommendations, and that is what Burt Rainey is doing. We are in our 2nd year of our ELA committee, and I'm gonna jump ahead, and then I'll come back to a few other READ Act things, but we have 11 staff on that committee. They consist of at least 1 representative from K-5, each grade level, special education, ELL, specialists, myself, and then Karen Jacobson has also been assisting us this year. Some things that committee is looking for, number 1, we focus a lot now, we've switched gears to the different parts of the science of reading. Do the curriculums meet Minnesota state standards? We also look at edreports.gov, which is a site that we know MDE has used through their rubric process of the curriculums as well. If you're ever bored and want to look at edreports.gov, you can look up any curriculums and it'll tell you which areas they meet and which areas they don't. We look at writing and language structures, vocabulary, phonics, decoding, verbal reasoning, phonemic awareness, various genres, background knowledge, are the stories engaging and are they culturally appropriate? Word recognition, does it have different components that will allow us to reach students of various levels? Grammar, usage, what does the online component look like? Different types of assessments. Does it help support fluency? Is there a solid scope and sequence, spelling, and so forth? Lots of pieces to that puzzle. Our hope is that right now we have narrowed it down to 2. I would say that my committee has extensively looked at, and I didn't bring the official number, I'm gonna guess 8. I've actually teased them and said they could be hired to go out to schools and share what they know, because we have really gotten down into the details on some of those curriculums. On Friday is a staff development day. The ELA committee has been working on almost every staff development day with some pretty intensive agendas. We will be doing another set of meetings with our final 2 companies. We've submitted questions and they're gonna be live sessions with the companies. So we're able to ask those questions, which we've given them ahead of time, and then follow-ups as well. So hoping to have a very strong recommendation with reasoning in early March. Backing up just a little bit on the READ Act. So another part that the READ Act is requiring schools to do is to initiate science of reading training, and they are referencing them as a phase 1 and a phase 2. And this is, district-wide. And so in phase 1, by July 1st of 2025, the state is saying that districts must have the following teachers have completed a required evidence-based training. So that would be K-12 intervention teachers. So in our building, that would be title. In Mrs. Hins's building, that would be a reading specialist. All pre-K, so preschool through grade 3 classroom teachers, pre-K-12 special ed teachers, pre-K-5 curriculum directors, pre-K-5 instructional support staff, which the state has still not outlined what that is. So we've kind of set that aside for now. And so just to kind of bring you up to date on that. So phase 1 at Burt Rainey, that includes 21 teachers that have to have that training. We are down to 4, are only remaining of that. Also, Mrs. Hins and I are in the works of working with middle school, high school special ed staff. We've had a couple meetings with them to outline various trainings, and right now are waiting on MDE to come out with additional information on, like, there'll be different groups around the state, and actually today at about 4:30, I haven't even shared this with Mr. Schneider, but at 4:30 I did get the initial information on some of those groups coming out. And so we will have more information to bring. There are 6 middle school, high school sped staff that will need to complete that training. So in visiting with many other districts, we are percentage-wise ahead of the game. Very fortunate that a lot of our people got in on that first set of training, but since that time, the expense to the district has been fairly high. And so, but myself and 2 other teachers actually just finished, it's called core training, which is one of the variations of the training. The rest of the elementary school has done letters. I did letters for admin and then jumped into the core. Very intensive. We finished last week, and I know for a fact all 3 of us were like, thank you. The last couple of weeks were very intense, a lot of collaborating back and forth, but middle school, high school staff will have some options, but it will be my recommendation that they actually complete the core training, which is not a 2-year commitment like letters. It's just much more appropriate for their grade level that they work with. The next phase will be phase 2, and that will include a much larger group of teachers. That will include at the elementary 4th and 5th grade. And actually, right now, 3 of the 4 are either done or are in process. And then it will also include like ELL, and then some additional middle school, high school teachers that work with reading. So, but that does not need to be done until 2027, and based on MDE so far, there will be changes to that. Any questions on anything with READ Act or ELA adoption?
What a monster. Thank you for digging in and doing what you've done.
Yes, absolutely. It's, I will say, I think MDE is, they have hired a lot of staff to help. They have been very responsive to us. I love being able to send a question that I'm sure they're thinking is basic and getting an answer that same day, so I certainly appreciate that. The Southwest West Central Service Co-op has been a great resource. I would say I have weekly meetings with their teaching and learning director as well. She has a direct connection with MDE, and they are funneling funds to different service co-ops around the state. So a lot of great resources. So, any other questions on the READ Act? If you're ever bored, if you just Google MDE, MN, READ Act, they have a page, and they are constantly trying to update that and make it more user-friendly, so. Okay, the other piece here that we have signed up, we have a opportunity as a local district to sign up someone on staff to become a letters facilitator. And keep in mind, letters is one of the 3 approved state trainings. And so we did have a staff member that has a very intensive background in reading instruction that has agreed to become trained in a letters facilitator. And that information is coming through the service co-op, and this individual will be trained and will be able to, after that training is done, train all new staff we hire, train staff that maybe transition into a different grade level or change positions in the district, as well as help support our current staff that have done the training. It isn't just you get the training and now you're done. It's constant support. So I'm very excited about that. That will be very helpful. I did link our staff development for Friday. Lots of things happening on Friday in both buildings. We have Narcan training, science of reading training. A number of our paraprofessionals are also coming in. We have some very exciting MCA training for all staff. That has also switched this year. And so Mrs. Hins and I have had to take a different process as far as getting that training out to them. And then we also have a course that's offered through the Department of Ed. It's called Office of American Indian Education, Key Concepts and Terms course. And that is a course that all of our staff that will be here on Friday will be participating in. And that covers quite a few topics that I think they'll find interesting as well. NAEP testing, similar to the middle school, high school, that is a required federal test. We do not have an option of opting out. Parents may opt out their children, but our fourth graders will be taking that on the 21st. The NAEP staff basically come in and they take over our fourth grade classrooms. Teachers remain. They'll do one section in the morning and another section in the afternoon, and they will be tested on reading and math. We do not get local results. There will be nothing relevant to Wyoming. It is all mixed into Minnesota. So when you see Minnesota scores and how we rate, Burt Rainey and middle school, high school will be mixed in. A special thank you to Amy Johnson from Fagans and her therapy dog Bear. This is her second year of coming in. Actually, it's her third year of coming in, but second year of it being a little bit more organized. She came in last week to all kindergarten classrooms. She brings a book to read. She brings Bear, her very beloved dog. The kids love it, and she reads a book to them, answers a lot of questions about Bear. He's pretty much a celebrity at Burt Rainey right now. So special thank you to her and to Fagans for sponsoring that. Tomorrow is the 100th day, and Burt Rainey has a variety of activities. The one that our kids actually don't know about, because we posted everything after they left, is we have 100, we call them sting tags, that are hid throughout the building. And then in front of the elementary school, we have a chart of 1 to 100. And so let's say that maybe first grader Sarah finds number 21. It's actually, and maybe it's in the bathroom. She finds it hooked to the tape or to the paper towel dispenser. She's gonna bring that down and hook it up on the chart. And once they have found all 100, then they earn a building-wide popcorn party. So I anticipate lots of excitement, probably sprinting to the hundreds chart to get those hung up tomorrow. Preschool, we sent out our registration forms earlier than we ever have. They actually went out the week after Christmas. And just a reminder, we have 3 programs parents can pick from. Bumblebee is all day, every day. That is already full with a waiting list. Honeybees is all day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That is at 12, so we have a few slots left in that. We tend to, once we get to that 15, 16, that's where we really tend to halt, because then it leaves a couple slots open for some special education students that may need that. And then our Busy Bees, which is the program that is the least popular, is run Tuesday, Thursdays, and as of this morning, that was at 7. So our numbers at this point of the year are higher than they've been in previous years. Keisha Lawaji, our preschool coordinator, and I, as well as our cultural liaison, Sophia Blue, are going to be going out to Upper Sioux Community the morning of the 20th, and we are doing kind of like a meet and greet informational session. And so we've worked with Upper Sioux Community, and they're going to, some of the families that are out there that maybe haven't signed up or just have some questions, even if they did sign up, we will be there to help explain our programs and help with paperwork as well. Our 2 concerts coming up in February, you'll see those listed. Dulcimer Project is happening, actually happened last week. Our 5th graders participated in the Dulcimer Project with artist in residence Ross Suter, and that is in conjunction with Mrs. Jan. The students build their own 1-string instrument, and I'm sure many of you remember your own children participating in that. They will continue to practice the dulcimer and music class with Mrs. Jan, and they will be performing with their dulcimers at their concert on the 28th of February. That project is funded through a grant that Mrs. Jan writes through the SMAC Foundation. I also would like to just extend a thank you to Mrs. Herneman in 5th grade and Terry Denison. For many years, Terry Denison has helped organize science study sessions for fifth grade. And that really helps bring in different presenters that teach our students on the health of the Minnesota River. They will learn through a series of lessons, fun hands-on activities, how to improve current practices, and learning about the health and our ecosystems near Granite Falls. We have Countryside Public Health coming in on Tuesdays and Thursdays to do some additional SEL presentations with our third grade. And the other item that is not on my agenda, but I did want to mention, so we recently had the MELT conference. And district-wide, we had 18 staff members present and share their expertise to area schools. That is by far the highest number we've ever had. I'm not so sure that we may not have had the highest percentage. I don't know, Mr. Snyder, if you saw.
No,
I glanced at the full list and YME stood out. So a special thank you to all 18 staff that gave their time and they basically presented to other schools that came in that day. Any questions for me? Lots of information from Mrs. Sims and I tonight, I know.
Again, thank you for all of it.
Yes.
And during, it's a lot of, like you said, lots of the READ Act and.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, and Mr. Schneider.
Well, first of all, how about a congratulations to our dance team?
Yeah.
First
Sweet.
Right, yeah.
So excited.
That's awesome, again. So that's big event this Friday and Saturday. We'll have a send-off. Well, I'm assuming we're gonna have a send-off? Yeah. So Thursday, there'll be a send-off, and they'll head up there, and I'm sure no matter what happens, they'll represent us very well. They always do. So I've heard there's gonna be some great suits up there, so get your cameras ready. Theme is love, and maybe you're gonna try that out on Wednesday first, because Wednesday is Valentine's Day.
That's true.
Yeah.
You never know.
We continue to work on the fiscal hosts with MVCC. It seems like we head down one rabbit hole and we find a different rabbit hole to head down. So we'll keep working on that. We never had any intention that we would have closure on that by July 1st. We really don't. We're really looking to try and do things correctly for all parties involved. YME really doesn't have a dog in the fight. We just think this would be best for everybody involved. Another congratulations to Amanda for being selected to serve on the Southwest West Central Board of Directors. I think that's good. First time since I've been here. We do purchase quite a bit of services, and you'll eventually this spring hear about, we had been purchasing our Wi-Fi or our internet services through LCTN, but that is now being dissolved, and so I happen to serve on a committee to take a look at that, and I'm not going to say who we chose, because that's still at this point not public knowledge, but we're really close to having that contract completely done. I don't want any of those providers to think they have more leverage on us. So we'll see. I think it's going to actually come in a little cheaper than what we're paying right now. So, and probably a little bit more reliable, because it'll be more robust, involving more people. So we think we're going to come out of that pretty good. Thank you to all of you folks for your willingness to serve here on the board. I know you have to make some sacrifices. Maybe you're late for concerts or sometimes miss games or concerts to serve, and I'm sure once in a while it gets tiring maybe having your ears tugged from time to time, people wanting to talk to you. But what you do here, I want you to know that we all really respect and appreciate that you're willing to do that. We are advertising for an additional sped teacher, when I say we, MVCC, to fill in some gaps. As the year went on, I think Lisa can attest, we are starting to identify more. Part of it is the process as we get further in the year, and part of it is sometimes that just happens. We think we can get by with less and we can't. We have to reach a fair balance with how to provide services for kiddos, and we want to try and avoid as much as possible burning out our staff, because that can be very challenging also. We will have a closed session at the end of this meeting to talk about negotiations, but we are slowly making progress with that. Their offer is still not what we can financially handle, so we'll talk about the details of that in a closed session, but we hope to continue to make progress. Special Education Teacher Pipeline Grant. Our region was approved for a $3 million grant. No other region even got $1 million. So this $3 million grant is huge out here. The same person that runs the READ Act happens to run this grant, by the way. I don't think she sleeps at night, Liz Dean. So she is going to run this grant. And great opportunity. If you know of anybody that wants to become a special education teacher and is willing to work for us, meaning work for us right now while they're going to school, this is an opportunity, right? What that means when you work for us, it's usually a para to special ed teacher program. It will pay for tuition, computer, coaching support. It's just a great program. So we dreamed big when we put this together, and the state listened and gave us $3 million. So that's huge for our region. So we do not have enough special ed teachers. This should have an impact on that. Legislative session, I believe, began today. I didn't hear anything from it, so that's probably okay, but I am going to give you the Rich Schneider version of the things you should, or I would appreciate if you supported, that would help our school district. Number one, zero unfunded mandates. If somebody wants to pass along a mandate to us, give us the money to support it. We can't do more with what we've got, and our staff is already overwhelmed. Number two, fully fund the mandates that you've already adopted. Great example is unemployment insurance. All right, we're getting the money for it now, or 90% of it we're going to get, but eventually that money's going to run down, and we're going to have to pay for that. So they have a choice. They can either fully fund it or give us the mechanism to fully fund it. So somehow I would appreciate those things. And then, as I've alluded to earlier tonight, we don't have enough teachers. Anything they can do, much like that teacher pipeline grant, anything they can do to get us more teachers in all areas will help us. That means back in the 80s, when I came out, there were probably about 7 or 8 teachers, or it felt like 7 or 8 teachers for each position. That's where we need to go, folks. We need to have extra, right? And that helps all of us in the open market when we're hunting for employees. So those things are, to me, the biggest things that we can do to help ourselves out. On here with those, what I'm encouraging you to advocate or lobby or talk to our legislators about, I put MSBA's platform and MREA's platform. So those are 2 good examples. You don't have to agree with each item in there, because I didn't. You'll notice some of the things I didn't talk about. So if you want to take a look at those, and just so you're aware of it, I think it's good if you ever get cornered by a legislator and want to talk about that. if you know a little bit about that. Okay? That's all I have.
Okay.
Questions?
Well, we appreciate you keeping us in the loop on all of the important stuff, because that legislative stuff is a lot. All right, any questions on? Okay. We got committee reports. Health and Safety Committee meeting we met in January.
Yes, so that's just a committee of staff members. This is just to communicate with you folks about some of the conversations that we have. We meet quarterly. It's required in statute that we meet quarterly. This is the most recent one that we had. So
Nothing significant that,
I don't believe so. We'll look at having another one in April, but sometimes it's minor things that we just need to be aware of and we try and address immediately.
great. Policy Committee, we met on January 24th. Feel like it was a full, busy, quick meeting, but, anyone else want to report on it?
Made some smudging policy changes, which we then brought to the American Indian Parent Advisory Committee. And then you'll see that later in this agenda for our first reading, moving it into the policy realm from the, what was it? Regulation
Right.
area. So this will be the first reading today, later, and then the second will be in March. We talked about that process on that committee, and then also with the American Indian Parent Advisory Committee as well, so they were aware of the whys and the hows, and had some input in the policy verbiage there as well versus the regulation. And then we went through a bunch of the stuff that we needed input from administration on, as far as dress code changes, and some other policies you'll see later on in our board meeting. So not much has changed on those policies really, but there was kind of MSBA had put out some new guidance for like dress code with a bunch of different categories to choose from. And we kind of fit that into what we had before, but then to line up with their policies, so it would just be updated as their policies are updated. Let's see.
I think that kind of covers it. right?
Pretty good
Yeah,
summary, I
that
think.
covers it.
There was a couple of policies that we had to table for further review because they weren't fully, parts of them are dependent upon other parts that weren't yet ready to go. So you'll see those coming up in future board meetings with all the changes that have been made.
Anything else to add?
No.
No. Okay.
I think we got all of them added to the agenda for first reading that needed to be.
Perfect. And then the Activity Committee met January 31st. This is the first meeting of that, right? Okay. Any updates?
Yes,
or
it was
things
the
you want
first
us to
meeting.
know, or-
Tim just updated us on academic eligibility and about basketball season. Let's see. Anything else you guys want to add?
We talked a bit about participant numbers within, well, pretty much all of the sports. It was more of an informational meeting than anything, I think, for most of us, but good information to review and bring forward we talked a little bit about, as it lists on this agenda, trap league and also esports, which we don't have, but are maybe, they're talking about it. So, which I think would be really exciting, and I think we would have students that are interested. So that was kind of cool to hear about.
And how often are you guys meeting? Quarterly, too?
I think. Do
Yeah,
we have the
probably.
next
I think
one?
we said that we would meet again in May, right? May meeting.
I don't know.
Sounds
I
right.
don't remember. Right?
Yeah, it went well. It was very informative, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Glad we
Yeah.
did this.
And there's 3 of you on it, right?
Yep.
And then buildings and grounds, you guys met February 7th.
Yeah, we just met just last week. R.A. Morton Wendell, we discussed a little bit of the results of the rough draft they provided us. I think there's still some more information they have yet to provide. So we didn't talk about it at length because we're waiting for that further information to come before we start getting into the weeds of their report. We had an update on the art room. There's some mold remediation that needs to be done in the art room. Francis showed us pictures of the pipe that he found. There was a couple broken pipes in the wall, actually sewer pipes, so kind of gross, but they were leaching through the wall in the closet that's down there, or I don't know, the kiln room or whatever it is. But, so there's some dampness and mold remediation that we think we just need to get done so that it doesn't turn into a worse problem. So they're working on getting that done, and the pipes are fixed, so that's good news. The IEA is doing an air quality survey for the building, and we're waiting for the results for that. They were here last week, is that correct, Rich? So we'll get those soon. There's a couple sinks and traps that need to be installed in the art rooms. We're waiting for Bisbee to get here to get those installed. That hasn't happened yet. We spent quite a bit of time going through the capital outlay and long-term facilities maintenance budget, just with taking a look at the priorities that we had already approved for this year and talking through and seeing how the pricing that's coming in versus what was allocated. And we're sitting very well. I mean, I think the purchases have been pretty close to on target, so we're right on line to be budget. But I would say, gosh, 90% of what we have allocated for has been purchased or is in the process of being purchased right now. Then we talked about things to come for next year's capital outlay budget, big ticket items such as technology, Chromebooks, computers for the staff, packages for curriculum that are being looked at, that we're still working on getting pricing on. So just kind of high level, long range thinking about what's going to be on that list. They're still assembling the asks from the staff of what they're looking for next year and assembling whatever pricing that might be. So we'll take a look more at that list once everything's in April, and go through those lists then and set the priorities for next year. We went over a proposal for the track, probably one of the more disappointing things for me personally, I guess. As you know, our track is in a state of disrepair with the sub-base and grade underneath that has deteriorated and allowed moisture to get in and has caused the surface to bubble. So it looks great from afar, but you get up next to it and we walked out there and took a look at it. The proposal you'll see in there to get, if we were to repair it right now, I think it came from Dunick, correct?
Yeah, that's one of them.
Yeah, it's one of them, but it was in the neighborhood of $560,000 or $80,000 to get fixed. So the question is where does the money come from that? Quite frankly, we just don't have it. So what does that mean? How long are we without a track? What does the track program do? So a lot of unknowns, but something that we need to address. So hoping that we can, as a board, help inform the public of why we're not using our track and that what we're hoping to do or what we can or can't do to get it replaced right now. So on a side note, at the sections dance competition, I did have parents from other schools locally, Bold and McRae, ask us about our track and why it's not usable. So I spent some time talking to them, and they anyways, moving on from that, the fire inspector was here last week and found a few items that we have to take care of. One of them is the curtains on the BRE stage. Francis was trying to track down some documentation for them. I don't remember the exact statute, but within 10 years, I believe, there has to be some documentation of proof of fire retardant material. So if we can't find that documentation, we can have it tested, but then it has to be tested annually to prove that it is fire retardant, or we have to replace them or find a different solution. So Francis is working on that still. So we haven't heard much more from there. There was a couple few minor violations and/or issues that we have to work through, but I wouldn't say anything that's significant. No, just normal process stuff. We talked about and looked at quotes for tuck pointing on the high school here. Would be mainly the front west wing, all the way around the front to, I would call it the west wall of the west wing, kind of above the area where the egg shop is. So areas of deficiency there. The quote to do that was $68,000. So we had some conversation about are these areas that are in immediate need to get repaired, or some are, or are there some areas that we could wait, and pending our next decisions about what we do after we get our stuff back from R.A. Morton as far as the building review. So we had some conversations on that. I don't know that we settled on that anywhere quite yet, but I know Rich and crew have a little bit more work to do to take a look at that. And then we discussed the airflow of room 255, which is Berta's room, in relation to the smudging policy. So that was what we talked about. Anything else you can think of, Ron?
The R.A. Morton rough draft, is that something that the whole board will hear about at some point?
Yeah, so their part is mostly done. Couple key parts that are not integrated is indoor air quality testing, right, needs to be added to that. And then they met with the principals and I to look at programming. Now, we did a very top level, very high look for what people want in terms of facilities to support our current programming or new programming. That's a pretty intense process, and if people haven't been down that road before, they can't think at that higher level until they're led through it. So this was just a survey that we gave just to get, maybe ideas, because a lot of what was reported in that survey was actually deficiencies that are already noted in the current report. Like, we talked about the plumbing, that's noted in the report already, but that's an area of deficiency. But you look at possible programming things, excuse me, might be like facilities to strengthen our ag program, or to add a different program to our elementary, robotics or something like that. And if the facility can't support that, that's what you look at in that analysis. You don't want the facility to limit the programming your school has. That makes sense, right? You want the facility to support what you want for programming.
Just a question about Berta's room. Did you have anything you wanted to share with us, since we are talking about the smudging policy tonight?
Yeah, I guess we talked about the air intake in that room. Rich had showed us a device that he had acquired that maybe we could just put a cover over as a part, or all of the air return in there.
All of it?
All of the air return in there, just to see if that, could do that. I don't know if that's the solution or not. We talked about different fans that could be purchased to try to push some of the air out the window, and then making use of that vent that's underneath the window in the hallway. I guess we expressed interest that maybe we give it a couple trial run-throughs to see if we can actually generate a negative pressure in that room, so it'll pull air from the hallway and push out the window before we actually get to March and approve the policy. So, Ron, Rich, you got any more you want to add to that?
That was one of the bigger things we talked about, was making sure
Yeah, unfortunately, like, so I did call Monoman and asked their superintendent about it, and that was some of the same things they had, but they had two recently remodeled rooms that had that strong ventilation system, an ag room and a art room that had that strong ventilation system to create what we're talking about, that negative air pressure. So when we say negative, so it doesn't draft into the hallway, and we're gonna block the inlets so it doesn't enter into the HVAC system and then distribute to the rest of the building. Francis and I will try that, or I don't care who's here when we try it, but we'll try it someday after school when we can crank up the HVAC, have it running at the pace that it would be running during the beginning of the school day, and see if we can create that scenario to see what happens.
So they were pretty strong about the ventilation and the way it sounds.
That's correct.
I guess what reference to what we're talking about there is if the policies that we had examples of, one of them was from Monoman. And, you know, being that they are predominantly of Native population on the White Earth Reservation up there, that they, in their policy, they had a very strong wording about ventilation and what areas they would do it in. So that's kind of my thoughts that struck me the most when we were looking at policies is if they are requiring areas that are of significant ventilation, then maybe, you know, we should be of the same thought.
Yeah, they're 86% Native American.
All right, any other questions? All right. Then we will head into new business. Item 1 is personnel items. We have a resignation for Title I teacher Mary Ella Klaus, a leave of absence request for middle school, high school paraprofessional Mary Becker, and a resignation for assistant volleyball coach Ashley Soini. I assume we can take all those together?
Yeah. I think so.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve those leave requests and resignations?
Motion by LeBlanc to approve.
Second?
Second by Amanda.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. New hire, approval of employment for long-term kindergarten substitute teacher Julie Runia and elementary special ed paraprofessional Carissa Peterson. Is there a motion to approve those two employments?
Motion by Zempel.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 2 is to adopt a resolution directing administration to make recommendations for reductions in programs and positions and reasons thereof, or therefore.
So this is just an annual thing that we do. Does not mean, but it does give us the latitude that if we do need to make some changes, that we can bring those recommendations for you, or to you, so.
That's a resolution, right?
Correct.
So it's resolutions, this is roll call vote. We'll start with Director Christensen.
Laurel Christensen, yes.
Matt Zempel, yes.
Dawn Odegaard, yes.
Jeremy LeBlanc, yes.
Amanda Lisi, yes.
Sonia Peterson, yes.
Ron Winter, yes.
Motion carries. Item 4 is approval of the implementation of frontline education applicant tracking system.
So some area schools, just a little background, some area schools use this. Used to be called AppleTrack, but it's frontline recruiting and hiring. There's a list of schools there and a map, but some in the immediate area include Montevideo, Bold, Buffalo Lake, Hector, Lakeview. Really, this tool works two ways. It gives us professional landing page for our applicants to go to that's consistent. And then we can track those applicants, including beyond just this year for a long period of time. It also will allow us to then spread our, basically proactively recruit people that have that licensure and are a member of, it's called K-12 Job Spot. But if they're out there, then we can send a message directly to those people to see if they're interested. The other thing is too, the state of Minnesota just does not have enough teachers. We've got to be able to reach outside of this region. We don't have that capability now. So this will give us a kind of a broad approach to it, maybe even international, even though we're not really in the market for international employees at this point, because we don't have the resources to support them. But this will allow us to reach out. I always use the example of Las Vegas, because I use that in reverse, because back when I used to recruit teachers down at Blue Earth, we would go to these recruitment events, these job fairs they're called, and Las Vegas was always there. And they were always recruiting our teachers. Well, maybe now that those people have left this area, they would come back here to raise their family. So we would have a presence where those people in Las Vegas and wherever will see our position. Plus, it probably levels the playing field with our area schools, including Montevideo, Lakeview, Bold.
Is it kind of like that website that you guys use for like superintendents and the director?
Correct, yeah, except it's a different brand,
Yeah.
but yeah. Yeah, you could actually use it for that, they just don't at this point. Same idea, so an applicant will be able to go to a landing page and load up all their resumes and letters of recommendations and all their credentials in one spot. Then when they apply for a different job, they just have to change their cover letter, and boom. So like we talked to Lisa and Stacy, and they talk to their kids, and that's how their kids apply for positions now. So this is just kind of getting us caught up with everybody else. But it's not free, but it's worth the effort, I think. We spend about, what did we spend on the Loomer newspaper? About $1,000 for one position?
Oh,
So we didn't
That's
get any
okay.
applicants from it.
Right. All right, well, that makes sense, thank you for the explanation. Is there a motion to approve the implementation of that frontline educational
I got
applicant?
One question before we go that far.
Mhm.
So in your agenda analysis, Rich, you've got the cost for two different systems. One was with proactive recruiting and one was without. Which
Yeah.
one are you looking to?
I think we'll go with the proactive. That will be my intent. I originally was wavering on that Wednesday at noon, and then I contacted Montevideo's HR manager and then watched a couple videos, and I think
Okay.
it's worth a try. Couple grand.
With that said, I'll make a motion to purchase the frontline education applicant tracking with a proactive piece of the system.
I'll second.
All right, any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Moves us on to approval of the Southwest West Central Service Cooperative Contracts.
So this is normally this would normally be part of the consent agenda. But there are a few different things that I noted in my notes there that are different than other years. First of all, I'm gonna ask that you give me the discretion to decide on teaching and learning. Did you meet with Liz today? Okay, so that discussion that we have will hinge upon that being able to serve exactly what we want for that amount. So that's a little bit of a change. You'll also see that we had an increase in costs of our occupational health and safety management company, that's IEA. Obviously, you know, just like everything else, technology coordinator services went up from year to year. We are keeping that UFAR's support, that Jeremy uses that quite a bit to get him some business support. I don't know how else to explain that. It's basically a helpline, maybe?
Yes.
So, and then in the past, we've always had that student data privacy thing. It went up pretty minimally, $45, but that's required in statute, so.
So is the motion, you're looking for approval, recommending the authorization to the superintendent to execute the contract as
Correct.
deemed feasible?
Correct, because I don't know about the teaching and learning till I have a conversation with them. Okay, but it's on there right now.
Okay. So you just need this motion?
Correct.
Okay. The motion that we are looking for is to authorize the superintendent to execute the contract as deemed feasible to allow some discretion about the teaching and learning component. That is the language he has on his agenda. Is there a motion to approve that language?
I'll motion to approve.
Is there a second? Amanda, will you say the second? Okay. Questions? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Then we have the 2024-25 calendar.
I
Yes,
believe you
Anderson.
served on the committee with us, so
Yeah.
there weren't substantial changes. The one thing, I believe it was a year ago, we moved the PLCs out of the Wednesday afternoon and back to the morning. That has proved to create some obstacles, but right now we are asking that you approve it, still sitting in that spot. We just don't have anything yet to cause that to change. At least by approving this will grant us some time to, at least the parents, be aware of when school starts, school ends,
Right.
natural breaks. There's one notable change on this calendar from the previous year's calendar, and that's the last day of school would end at 1 o'clock. Last day of the school year, end at 1 o'clock.
I have a question regarding October, the 16th, 17th, and 18th. It looks like there's no school Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Is that Wednesday, is that a new, have they always had 3 days off? Or
They
was it?
have. So that
It's always been
Wednesday
3,
is
okay.
actually the students don't have school, but staff do.
It's a staff development day.
So that's a Mermaid Common
Correct.
Professional Development Day.
That's what it is.
So,
okay.
and then you have the convention on Thursday
Yep,
and no school Friday.
okay. I couldn't remember if it was that Wednesday. It's a blur.
And
Okay.
really, isn't it just the PLCs that was gonna be really the only thing that might
Yeah,
change a little
you
bit?
know, but
I
the
mean,
only thing that could possibly change is if we decide, which would be still your approval, to change the calendar to say, let's go out early so we can have PLCs in the afternoon. But remember, we got away from that 2 years ago.
Oh, right. Questions about the calendar? I mean, I didn't really, being very novice to it, I didn't think it was, everything made sense to me what they were doing, and you'll come back to us if there's something significant, right? So, is there a motion to approve the 2024-25 calendar as presented?
Motion to approve by Zempel.
Second?
I'll make a second.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Several policy updates. How do you want to talk What do you?
The second readings means that we have had a first reading on them already. So I think you could take those three as one, if
Okay.
you'd like.
All right, so we've already reviewed policy 602, organization of the school calendar and school day, policy 621, literacy and the READ Act, and policy 624, online instruction. Is there a motion to approve the second reading and adoption of those three policies?
Motion by Zempel.
Is there a second?
Second by LeBlanc.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any follow-up questions? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. All right, and then we have several policies here for first readings. Do you want to open those?
So, yeah, I can cover those pretty quickly. With the exception, I think we want to have a little bit longer talk about smudging. So we have the second reading of the organization of school calendar and school day.
No, we
Ten-
just approved.
10.
No, we
10.4.
did those. We need the,
10.4.
start with the
First
first
reading.
readings.
506.
Oh,
It's right there.
oh,
506.
yep. Lost my train of thought when I was
Yeah.
trying to call something up. So student discipline, the principals did look through that and have made those adjustments. That policy should represent what was brought to the policy committee and for approval. You do have the current YME policy and then the red line, which does involve some changes, and they're significant changes.
Are these changes MSBA recommended, is that?
Correct. There's some of those, we were given some discretion as to how to word them.
Yeah, most of these policies in this review required administration input because there was a sample policy with multiple choices of how you wanted to implement it.
Okay.
And they looked at it to compare to our existing policies and what they'd like to see in the district
Okay.
from the administrative standpoint.
So we don't need a motion, so I can go on to the next one. The next one, I believe, is 603, curriculum development, and for some reason, I think that was also tied to the READ Act. And so there's some reflections of the READ Act in there too. But that's a red line master is attached there. The district advisory committee basically is our curriculum advisory committee that acts in that same way. Elimination of some things and an update of the statutes. Questions about 603?
And those were MSBA recommended too, so.
Correct. Then the next one is 606. This is a new policy for us. So basically it's all red, so something for you to review, but this kind of strengthens some of the challenges that have been made through legislature, but this was a long-standing MSBA policy that we are just going to implement to give us guidance, especially around when somebody wants to challenge something that's in our library. So we have a process for that. So those will all be brought to you for a second reading, barring your objection in March it would be. Okay.
Can you touch on 616, school district system accountability, and then we'll talk about smudging.
616.
School district system accountability, I think that one was, I don't remember if that was a new one.
One was This one was dependent on 603 being finalized, so we
Yeah.
could adopt it.
Okay.
It just updates graduation standard. It removes that language, graduation standards, and adds
Oh, yeah.
the district advisory committee, which
Yeah.
we had to establish in order for this to be established.
So any questions on any of those?
I believe that was the first reading also, so we can move on to the YME smudging policy. So we have spent quite a bit of time on this, and as he alluded when we talked about the policy committee, actually the next American Indian Parent Advisory Council is on Wednesday night, so they'll get a copy of this rough draft. There's a couple things that were talked about during the policy committee that we wanted to establish make sure that the administrators, us as an administrative team, were aware of. We want to strongly encourage outdoor smudging. Direct supervision must occur as required. Look for a secondary space. We will try and identify a secondary space at a later time, but we are going to start with the, just to make sure you are aware, we're going to start with a morning time. That will be how the trial works, and make sure that goes okay. The secondary space, I believe what we talked about is we wanted that space just in case there needed to be an individual incident that caused someone to need to smudge. And make sure all the ventilation and everything works there. As we talked about earlier tonight, the airflow, make sure we have created a negative airflow. We would continue to monitor it through frequent ventilation checks. Develop a process where elementary students would obtain parental approval before participating. That was something that the policy committee thought was important, and I think that's something for the American Indian Parent Advisory Council to talk about, what that would look like. Will be conducted indoors before school and only during the trial period, and carefully monitor. Some of the things we were concerned about was monitoring the neighboring classroom and the impact on that, let alone the hallway. And just so that everyone understood that at any point we could stop and relook at things to make sure we're addressing all health concerns. Questions? We tried to pull together what we talked about in the work session, then conversations with administrators, and obviously the policy committee. So hopefully we're closer.
I think too, like, we talked a lot about the policy itself won't have the ins and outs of the administration. They're tasked with some of the things that Rich just said about maintaining the proper ventilation, and if the trial period isn't working, that we have to stop until we have a better option. I don't wanna speak for the whole group, or you can say, but we didn't feel that some of that, it gets too muddy to put it
Right.
in a policy.
We wanted the administration to be able to react
Have a lot of
as
management.
needed
Correct.
as we evolve through this new policy
So if
as a
you-
school district. Which if we put it all in writing in the policy, then it requires us to make the changes versus administration
Yeah.
being able to be able to react and adapt as needed.
So we did hear what you said at the work session, and we did go back and talk through that a lot with Rich and the group, and feel like, well, and you guys talked about it, it looks like at Buildings and Grounds on top of it.
Yeah, I think the piece we talked about more is the implementation and how we can manage that air piece on the administration side. Kind of working through some of those ideas. So, more than we did about what language should be in the policy. I appreciate the conversation that we've had as a group on this. I think it's really important for both us and the Upper Sioux. And just the thoughtfulness that we've given to this policy. I appreciate the policy committee's time on it, so thank you.
I think the work session was also very helpful for us to
Yep.
learn more and.
And the American Indian Parent Advisory Committee's been very understanding and going through this process, so appreciation goes to them as well, if they're listening.
So, questions, comments, we kind of have this, it's written into there that any changes will be brought back to them before final approval, and there is a PAC meeting on Wednesday this
Yep,
week.
this
So,
week.
if there's anything you see that needs to be talked about, we should do that tonight.
Otherwise, what's red there, when I say red, meaning what's in red will be added by the time we have our next board meeting for approval. It'll be switched to not being red.
I don't think the group is going to have an issue with the things that we changed.
And we would have the latitude then in March to, when I say we, you would have the latitude in March to make those changes too. There's nothing saying that it has to be worded exactly the same this month as it is next month.
The only thing that in talking with some constituents about this, do we know of any, schools that, have had the adults that is supervising this and the child permission slip saying, something to the effect of having them sign a waiver for adverse health issues? So they can't come back to the school and sue the school for any adverse health issues?
I have not seen that in any of the policies I've read, but, you know, I've read every one, but even the colleges did not have that on there. Yeah, one thing I don't envision us saying an adult has to supervise it if they're not comfortable with it, if that's also part of what you're thinking. I don't think I would say to Stacy if she felt uncomfortable health-wise, if I can use Stacy as an example, that Stacy, you must supervise it, even though she had concerns about her own health. And if that's what you want.
No, just in particular, like Berta, say that, she's in there all day with it. I just watching out for the school down the road,
Okay.
don't want her to come
Excessive
back and say,
exposure.
hey, I was excessively exposed to this, at my job.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
I mean, it certainly makes sense. That would not be the presentation that we have received at the PAC meeting. And the idea of the people that are supervising would be the liaisons, Berta,
Starla,
they have the knowledge of the,
understanding of the culture.
yep. Very good point, though.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about that.
Did did you want to consult with our attorney prior to the March board meeting, just to come with an answer if we'd be in a liable position in a situation like that? I mean, being it's kind of
Yeah.
voluntary.
Yeah, I don't know, so a waiver of liability probably isn't gonna hold any weight anyway.
Right, it would be more, what does the precedent say in the law
I would
for a
suppose so.
situation like this?
We're overturning every stone to make sure that we've got it.
Okay, I will consult with our attorney to make sure that we are not exposing ourselves to liability.
I mean, this is a big deal, this policy we spend a ton of time on, and it is important before we, make these final decisions.
Yeah, we have a
Oh.
question we wanted answered, so.
Yep. Yep, and we talked to the PAC group about the permission slips, and everyone is on board that the elementary would, but that middle school, high school age student can, make their own decision on that. They were very, very firm in that,
But the parents would have the ability to
of course.
exempt their child, of course. It'd be like a field trip, where if they don't want them to participate, they could
Right.
indicate to the school to remove them. And they talked about using a Google form internally at the school, so whatever's coming in can be coordinated between Berta and the front desk, so that everyone's on the same page. If, Mrs. Hens gets an email to exempt a student from, remove them from participation, there's a record keeping, and that was talked about in our parent advisory committee meeting last time on how they would kind of coordinate that so that everybody knows who's allowed and who's not allowed based on the elementary or high school requirement.
Other questions on that? Thoughts, comments? Okay. No discussion, but we do have some correspondence. We have a famous person in our.
A major award, I see.
Major award.
Apparently, I checked into my sessions.
Yep. So MSBA is awarded Director Matt Zempel the Director's Award for 100 hours or something like that.
I got 100 points.
100
Points.
How did you do that, Matt? Good job.
I checked into my sessions when I showed up at the on their little app.
Oh.
No, I didn't do that.
I
Good
didn't-
job.
I didn't know you had, you could.
I know.
Yeah.
Next year.
Next year,
Record
everyone
Now
will get a
Next year, we need to all
certificate.
take notes
We
from
took
Matt.
them to ours too,
Wow.
but we didn't know there was some special thing on
Wow,
the app.
you have to show all of us for next year.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Good job, Matt.
Congratulations, Matt.
That's funny. I thought it was, you signed up for extra
Right.
sessions through MSBA.
Oh, he worked really hard. He was walking around and talking to people and shaking hands.
Yeah.
Rubbing elbows.
Yeah.
Give you a lot of chip clips.
Okay. We have a lot of upcoming events. American Indian Parent Advisory Council meeting is this Wednesday, the 14th at 4 o'clock. No school for staff development on February 16th, which is Friday. No school President's Day on the 19th. Finance Committee meeting meets February 21st. The Curriculum Advisory Committee meeting meets February 22nd. Negotiations is February 26th. Meet and confer, if there is one, will be March 11th, correct?
Correct.
Which is also the same day as our board meeting. Parent-teacher conferences are March 21 and 25. End of third quarter is March 27th. It feels very weird to be saying March. No school staff development, March 28th, and then Easter break is the 29th and April 1st. And then again, a board meeting on April 8th. We are going to now move to a closed session pursuant to Minnesota Statute Section 13D03 for the purpose of discussing the district's labor negotiation strategies relating to negotiations with employees. And when we return, we will be taking no further board action.